They prayed in secret to marry you. Then God moved, my beloved child, stop for a moment, because something hidden is being revealed to you right now, and your soul already knows it. You didn't arrive here by accident. The universe aligned this moment because a quiet truth has been waiting for you to hear it, and heaven has chosen now to lift the veil. There is a gentle stirring in the unseen, a whisper moving through your spirit, saying, "Pay attention." What you are about to receive is not random inspiration, it is a divine unveiling. A message that was kept in silence, protected in prayer, and guarded by timing. You may have felt it in your chest lately, that ache mixed with hope. That feeling that something is about to change. That is not imagination. That is alignment. Here is the hidden truth the universe wants you to know. Someone spoke your name to God when no one was watching. They carried you in their heart during quiet nights, uncertain days, and sacred moments you never saw. They didn't announce it. They didn't perform it. They whispered it. And heaven heard every word. They prayed in secret to marry you. Then God moved. This revelation is not meant to rush you, it is meant to reassure you. Destiny does not shout, it confirms. What is unfolding now is the result of unseen faith, patient trust, and divine orchestration that never forgot you. Even when you doubted. Even when you wondered if love had passed you by. Even when you questioned your worth. The universe was still working in your favor, arranging hearts, softening timelines, and aligning paths. You are not late. You are not overlooked. You are chosen in the right season. The reason this message feels personal is because it is. The reason your spirit feels calm while your eyes stay focused is because truth carries peace. What was once hidden is becoming clear. What felt delayed was actually protected. And what you thought was silence was really preparation. This is a moment of divine recognition. A reminder that love guided by God arrives with clarity, not confusion. With peace, not pressure. With purpose, not fear. The universe is not asking you to chase, it is inviting you to receive. To trust. To open your heart again, knowing that what is meant for you cannot miss you. Hold on to this knowing. Let it anchor you. Something sacred is unfolding, and you are standing exactly where you are meant to be. The path ahead is blessed, and the timing is holy. If this message reached you, it's because your soul was ready to remember. Stay with this revelation. Watch this video completely, allow the message to finish what it began. And if this spoke to you, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, so this divine clarity can continue to find you and those who need it. Did you know there's a possible image of your real soulmate that you can look at right now? It might be someone you know or someone you haven't met yet. It's amazing how accurate these have been. You have to see the photo to see what I mean. Click the link in the description to get your soulmate sketch. They prayed in secret to marry you. And I heard every whisper. I heard the trembling hope behind their closed eyes, the words they could not speak aloud because fear stood guard at their lips. When the world slept, when distractions fell quiet, when even they doubted their own courage, they spoke your name to me. Not loudly, not boldly, but honestly. And honesty reaches me faster than shouting ever could. I am the God who hears prayers that never leave the heart. I am the God who listens between breaths. When they asked me if you were the one, they did not ask lightly. They asked after tears. They asked after disappointments. They asked after they had already tried to forget you and failed. They asked after telling themselves, it's too late, and yet still hoping I would say, not yet. You never saw those prayers because they were not meant for your eyes. They were meant for mine. I shielded them because some prayers must grow in the dark before they are revealed in the light. Seeds do not announce themselves before breaking the soil. And what I was doing required time, patience, and trust. You wondered why things felt delayed. You questioned why the connection seemed unfinished, why silence replaced clarity, why the story paused at the most confusing chapter. But I was not absent. I was arranging what you could not control. I was correcting what love alone could not heal. I was preparing hearts so that when paths crossed again, they would not cross in confusion, but in purpose. They asked me to remove you from their heart if you were not meant to stay. They begged me to quiet their feelings if those feelings would only lead to pain. And I could have. I am powerful enough to erase memories, to dull affection, to redirect desire. But I did not. Instead, I refined it. I purified it. I slowed it down so it would not burn too fast and turn to ash. You see, I do not answer every prayer by taking something away. Sometimes I answer by strengthening what remains. What survives surrender is what is meant to last. While you were busy trying to understand your own emotions, I was working in places you could not see. I was teaching them patience. I was teaching them restraint. I was teaching them how to love you without possessing you, how to pray for you without controlling you, how to trust me with the outcome instead of forcing their own timing. There were nights they almost gave up. Nights when they told me, if this is not from you, please let it die. And they waited. And when it did not die, they realized something sacred was happening. Love that is not rooted in me collapses under waiting. Love that is planted by me grows deeper in silence. you felt the pull and didn't know why. You sensed their presence even when they were not near. That was not imagination. That was alignment. That was two hearts being tuned separately to the same frequency before ever playing the same song. I did not move suddenly. I moved precisely. I adjusted conversations you never heard. I delayed opportunities you thought were missed. I closed doors that would have distracted both of you from what truly mattered. I even allowed misunderstandings, not to break you, but to reveal what still needed healing. Because I am not interested in a moment. I am interested in a covenant. They prayed for clarity, and I gave them character. They prayed for a sign, and I gave them endurance. They prayed for certainty, and I gave them faith. And faith, when tested, becomes unshakable. You may ask why I allowed the secrecy. Why love had to hide in prayer before it could walk in daylight. It is because not every intention deserves public exposure. Some promises must be protected from opinions, from jealousy, from fear spoken by those who cannot see what I see. I guard what I ordain. I watched how you both grew apart and closer at the same time. Distance taught you independence. Silence taught you discernment. Waiting taught you value. If I had rushed this, you would have met each other as you were, not as who you needed to become. They did not pray for possession. They prayed for permission. They asked me, if it is your will, allow me to love them rightly. And that prayer pleased me. Because love that seeks my will before its own comfort is love I can trust. There were moments when you felt forgotten. Moments when you wondered if the connection was one-sided. Moments when doubt whispered lies about worth and timing. But I was there, countering every lie with truth, even when you could not hear it yet. I was teaching you both the same lesson in different ways, that real love is not rushed. Not forced, not demanded. It is revealed. When I moved, it was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was subtle enough that only attentive hearts would notice. A thought returning unexpectedly. A memory resurfacing without pain. A peace replacing confusion. That is how I move when something is aligned with my purpose. You see, I am not the author of chaos. If I allowed the delay, it was because clarity was coming. If I allowed the silence, it was because truth was forming. If I allowed the distance, it was because the reunion, if and when it comes, must be built on strength, not longing alone. They prayed to marry you not because they needed you, but because they chose you. There is a difference. Need clings. Choice commits. And commitment is something I take seriously. Do not think for a moment that I ignored the weight of such a prayer. Marriage is not a fantasy to me. It is a calling. And I do not call unprepared hearts into sacred vows, so I tested patience. I refined motives. I exposed hidden wounds. Not to punish, but to protect. Because what I join together must be able to withstand seasons, not just feelings. Even now, I am still working. Still aligning. Still speaking, sometimes through peace, sometimes through delay, sometimes through unanswered questions. Do not rush to conclusions. Do not assume the story is over because the chapter is quiet. I am the God of timing. I see endings before beginnings and beginnings hidden inside endings. What looks like stillness to you is movement to me, and this is not the end of what I am revealing, because there is more you need to understand before the next step unfolds, and I will speak again when the moment is right. I will continue, and I will speak gently, because what unfolds next is delicate, layered, and still becoming. I need you to understand something deeper now. When I delay what you desire, it is never to deny you joy. It is to protect the version of you that will receive it. I saw who you were becoming, and I saw who they were becoming, and I knew that if I brought you together too soon, you would meet each other with wounds still open, with expectations too heavy, with fears still speaking louder than faith. Love formed in haste often breaks under pressure. Love shaped by me can endure storms without losing its tenderness. There were parts of you that still needed to learn how to rest without reassurance. There were parts of them that still needed to learn how to lead without control. So I separated what was connected, not to weaken the bond, but to mature it. This is how I work when something matters deeply. You may have wondered why I allowed other distractions to appear. Why other voices tried to compete for attention. Why confusion tried to masquerade as clarity. I allowed it so you could recognize the difference between noise and peace. Anything not aligned with my will could not stay without effort. Anything aligned with me remained, even when effort was gone. They tried to move on. They truly did. They told themselves new beginnings would erase old feelings. They convinced themselves that time would fade your presence. But love that is entrusted to me does not dissolve easily. It transforms. It waits. It learns how to be still without disappearing. I watched them stop praying about you for a while, not because they stopped caring, but because they surrendered control. They said, "God, you decide." And that is when I moved more freely. Because surrender is not giving up. It is making space for me to act without resistance. You were also changing, even when you didn't realize it. You were learning discernment. You were learning self-respect. You were learning how to say no to what looks good but feels wrong. That growth was necessary. Because the next season of your life requires clarity, not confusion disguised as passion. I did not want you entering love trying to prove your worth. I wanted you entering love knowing it. There were moments you felt pulled to pray without knowing why. Moments when their name crossed your mind during silence. That was not coincidence. That was alignment strengthening beneath the surface. Two hearts being prepared separately, but not forgotten. I need you to hear this clearly now. I am not manipulating emotions. I am revealing truth. Emotions rise and fall, but truth remains. And the truth is this: when something is meant to be built with me, it is never rushed, never shallow, never careless. They prayed not just to marry you, but to love you correctly. They asked me to remove selfishness from their intentions. They asked me to teach them patience instead of possession. That kind of prayer reshapes a person. It turns desire into devotion. And devotion is something I honor. You may have noticed how conversations in your life began to change. How shallow connections lost their appeal. How your spirit craved depth over excitement. That was not loneliness. That was refinement. I was narrowing your focus so you would not mistake attention for alignment. Sometimes I remove options so you can recognize assignment. There were lessons you both needed to learn about communication, about listening without defending, about speaking without fear, about silence without assumptions. Those lessons could not be taught while emotions were loud. So I quieted the environment. I let stillness do what chaos never could. I know the waiting tested you. I know you questioned me. I know you asked why something that felt so real had to feel so distant. But distance does not mean absence. It means preparation. I do not waste connection. If I allowed you to meet, to recognize something sacred, to feel something rare, it was not accidental. But recognition does not always mean readiness. And readiness is what sustains what recognition begins. There were things I needed to remove from both of you, patterns inherited, fears learned, expectations shaped by disappointment. Those things cannot be healed in union. They must be healed in solitude, so I worked quietly. I spoke through circumstances. I answered prayers indirectly. I taught you both how to trust me without needing constant confirmation. Because the next phase will require trust, not signs. When I move again, and I will, it will not feel chaotic. It will feel calm. It will not feel desperate. It will feel grounded. That is how you will know it is from me. Do not confuse longing with calling. Longing pulls. Calling aligns. What I am doing now is aligning. They never stopped caring. They stopped forcing. There is a difference. And in that difference, maturity was born. I also need you to understand this. Secrecy was not about shame. It was about protection. What is sacred must be shielded until it is strong enough to stand. Even I hide things until the appointed time. You are not behind. They are not late. Nothing has been wasted. I am the God who redeems time. What you thought was lost, I was preserving. What you thought was delayed, I was perfecting. What you thought was silence, I was instruction. There is a reason your heart did not close. There is a reason peace still visits you when you think of them. Peace is my confirmation, not anxiety. I do not dwell in restlessness, but hear me carefully now, do not run ahead of me. Do not try to reopen doors I have not yet unlocked. Trust is not passive, but it is patient. There are still a few things that must align. Still a few conversations that must happen internally before they happen outwardly. Still a few fears that must loosen their grip. And I am attending to all of it. I am not finished speaking to either of you, and what comes next will require wisdom more than emotion. Courage more than comfort, faith more than certainty. So stay attentive. Stay grounded. Stay open, but not anxious. Because what I am preparing to reveal will make sense of everything that came before it, and when the next movement begins, you will recognize it not by urgency, but by peace. I will continue when you are ready for what comes next. Now listen carefully, because what I say next completes what I have been preparing you to understand. There comes a moment in every divinely guided story when waiting gives way to wisdom. That moment is near. But before I close this chapter, you must see the full picture, not through emotion, not through memory, but through truth. I did not allow this connection to linger without purpose. I allowed it because it was shaping you into someone who could recognize love without losing yourself, and shaping them into someone who could offer commitment without fear. This was never about chasing, convincing, or proving. It was about becoming. You see, I never intended love to be a struggle for dominance or validation. Love, as I designed it, is a place of rest. And rest cannot exist where insecurity leads. That is why I worked in the hidden places first. There were moments when you thought, if this was meant to be, it wouldn't be this hard. But hear me, growth often feels harder than avoidance. Transformation always feels uncomfortable before it feels peaceful. What felt heavy was not the connection, it was the shedding of what could not go with you into the future. They learned something crucial in the waiting, that love is not proven by pursuit alone, but by patience. That wanting you was not enough, they needed to be ready to keep you. Readiness requires responsibility, humility, and consistency. Those qualities are not developed in haste, you learn something equally important, that being chosen does not mean abandoning discernment. That being loved does not require shrinking your standards. That the right love will never ask you to betray your peace. That is why I allowed you both to stand alone for a season. Solitude reveals truth that companionship can conceal. I watched you release illusions, ideas of how things should unfold. I watched you stop romanticizing uncertainty. I watched you choose growth over fantasy. That choice mattered more than you know, and I watched them confront themselves. Confront fears of failure. Confront old patterns. Confront the realization that real love is not guaranteed by feeling, it is sustained by decision. When they prayed to marry you, they were not asking for possession of your life. They were asking for permission to walk beside it. That prayer required me to prepare them for partnership, not just romance. You must understand this now. I never promise outcomes without purpose. I promise alignment. And alignment does not always mean permanence, it means correctness. It means whatever unfolds will not violate your becoming. If union is part of my will, it will come without confusion. If closure is part of my will, it will come without regret. Either way, peace will be present. That is how you will know I have moved fully. There is no need to fear the unknown. I am not vague. I am precise. What feels uncertain is simply unfinished. And unfinished does not mean unprotected. I am still guiding conversations you have not yet had. Still softening hearts. Still arranging timing. Still ensuring that when truth is spoken, it will land on prepared ground. Do not mistake quiet for stagnation. Rivers move silently until they reach their destination. You were never forgotten in their prayers. And they were never absent from my awareness. I weighed every intention. I measured every motive. I filtered every desire through wisdom, and now, the season is shifting. The next step will not require effort to recognize. It will feel natural, honest, and steady. There will be no need for guessing games, no need for decoding signs, no need for overthinking. What comes from me does not demand anxiety to sustain it, whether it leads to a beginning or a blessing that releases you forward, it will be right. I know you wanted certainty sooner. But certainty without growth creates fragility. What you are stepping into now has weight, depth, and endurance. Let go of the need to control how this resolves. Control is not protection, trust is. I have already gone ahead of you. I have already seen how this chapter closes and how the next one opens. Nothing is random. Nothing is cruel. Nothing is wasted. Love that passes through my hands is never meaningless, even if it changes form, so stand firm. Stay present. Do not cling to the past or rush the future. Walk with me now, not ahead of me. Because what I am completing in you is just as important as what I am completing around you. And now, hear this final truth and carry it with peace: you were never waiting alone. They were never praying in vain. And I never moved too late. I moved exactly when hearts were ready to understand what love truly requires. This message is complete. Rest now. Trust me. And step forward without fear. Amen.